How is the current inflation different from the 1970s? Unprecedented global inflation in the current year recalls the experience of the 1970s, particularly the aftermath of the oil crisis in 1973 and 1979. Both crises contributed to rising commodity prices worldwide and their spillover effects on the prices of other goods and services. However, the environment and intensity of the crisis differ in various respects. Firstly, recent oil price rises are proportionately smaller than the 1970s crisis, which had taken oil prices to historic highs. Secondly, in contrast to the 1970s crisis, which was confined to oil prices, the recent crisis has seen pervasive price increases across a broader range of commodities. Prices of non-oil energy, some agricultural goods, fertilizers and metals have all risen well above their pre-pandemic levels in the current year. Thirdly, commodity supply disruptions have played a smaller role in recent price increases than in the 1970s. The rise in commodity prices over the past year has been accompanied by a modest rise in the production of many commodities. Although not oil, global commodity supply chains have now become more efficient than in the 1970s, and hence the inflationary pressure can be absorbed with greater ease. However, supply disruptions could intensify over the coming year as the war in Ukraine will lower global production of wheat, maize, and fertilizers, while price caps on Russian oil and gas may reduce the supply of these products. Fourthly, global inflation, which has risen significantly since the start of 2021, follows several years of low inflation. In contrast to this, the 1973 crisis took place against a backdrop of several years of steadily rising world inflation and signs of a de-anchoring of inflation expectations. Lastly, the 1973 crisis closely followed the collapse of the Bretton Woods managed exchange rate regime as the goals and even instruments of monetary policy were poorly defined in many countries. Arguably, central banks have much clearer and more robust institutional framework that focus on price stability today. This has prevented inflation expectations of the public from becoming unanchored despite a sharp rise in inflation during the year 2022. Besides commodity market behavior, higher energy prices could matter less today than in the past. With better coordination among the global central banks and the application of unconventional monetary policy tools, inflation has been controlled in a better way so that its negative spillovers are limited and transitory. The energy intensity of GDP, the amount of energy required to produce a given amount of goods and services, has fallen by around 40% since the late 1970s. With the diversification of input baskets and destinations for sourcing commodity shocks, impact has been tamed to some extent. Hence, we may expect recent commodity prices rises to be less disruptive than those of the 1970s. National Housing Bank (NHBs). NHB's support to the housing finance sector (HFC). The last 3 years were challenging for the housing sector. NHB has provided a significant impetus to obviate the liquidity issues faced by the housing finance sector in the last 3 years. The liquidity infusion facility scheme was launched in 2019 to support HFCs in creating individual housing loan portfolios that fall under the priority sector as defined by the RBI. During the COVID 19 pandemic, Special Refinance Facility SRF was launched for disbursing on an amount of 10,000 crore rupees provided by RBI under the special liquidity facility and an amount of 5,000 crore rupees allocated by RBI under an additional special liquidity facility. During 2020 to 2021, SRF 2021 was launched with a corpus of 10,000 crore rupees provided by RBI under SLF2. NHB has provided refinance disbursement of 3.3 lakh crore rupees since inception, of which 0.84 lakh crore rupees were disbursed during last 3 financial years. Also, as a part of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, NHB has extended concessions of 25 by 30 basis points under refinance for the various categories including women, rural areas, SC, ST, aspirational districts, northeastern region, loans to third gender or differently abled or disabled, union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, and green housing. In view of the nation's commitment at COP26 to reach net zero emission by 2070,